Hello YouTube, welcome to the D&D Academy, a new show here on House of Crit where we teach you how to both play and run Dungeons & Dragons. My name is Paul, and I'm the DM here at House of Crit, and for over 20 years I've been introducing friends and family to the world's most popular role-playing game, and now it's your turn. You've probably seen D&D played on a few shows on TV, such as Stranger Things or Community.
That sound. Boom. Boom. No! That didn't come from the troglodytes, no. That came from something else. The Demogorgon!
Now take your time, choose your character carefully. They each have their own unique combination of strengths and... Alrighty?
Shouldn't there be a board or some pieces or something to Jenga?
No, this is a role-playing game. It takes place entirely in our collective imagination.
Or maybe you've seen a game of D&D streamed on YouTube, such as Critical Role, or right here on House of Crit.
Your hands forward and say that the laughing hand kind of comes barreling up towards you.
Plus 3 is 6.
Another 6 damage. Did you come up with the kick and then hook the lower leg back to snap his head the other direction?
That's so cool.
And do you try to knock him prone again with that?
Yes.
Okay. Now you've seen people playing D&D, but you ask yourself, what exactly is it that they're doing? Well, I'm here to break all that down for you. Dungeons & Dragons is a role-playing game. Role-playing games are games where everyone at the table has taken on the role of one of the main characters of a story everyone is telling together. The point of the game is to have fun and tell the story of the adventure. There are times in the story where our heroes are attempting to do something challenging and there's a chance they might fail. And in that instance, an objective set of rules helps govern the probability of whether or not they can pull off what they're trying to do. Each of the players at the table has taken on the role of one of the main characters in the story, but one of the players has taken on the role of the Dungeon Master. Now the player who's taken on the role of being the Dungeon Master has taken on the role of being the story's narrator, as opposed to playing one of the characters in the story. Now in their role as being the story's narrator, they play all the other characters in the story not played by the players at the table. This can include the tavern keepers, the shifty merchants, the evil monsters. Everything in the world that isn't one of the main characters of the story is played by the Dungeon Master. The second job of the Dungeon Master, and just as important as being the story's main narrator, is being the interpreter of the rules of the game. Unlike regular tabletop games or card games, the rules in Dungeons & Dragons, and in all other role-playing games, are designed to create a framework with which you tell the story through. Having someone be an interpreter or referee for the rules of the game means that anything that the players who are playing the game can think of doing, the DM can translate those into the rules of the game and keep the story going. This provides an infinite amount of flexibility to what the story can contain and what the players can attempt to do. Now, while all that can sound a bit complicated and daunting, it really has a very simple flow to it. There's really only 3 things occurring at the table. The first thing that happens is the DM describes the scene, the players make a decision based on that description, and then possibly the DM makes a ruling that could involve dice. That's it. 3 simple steps: description, decision, and dice. Now the DM's description can include all sorts of things. They could be acting out a character the players are interacting with, they describe a room that the characters enter into, or they describe some sort of fiendish creature that they encounter in the dungeon. Then it's up to the players to react to the DM's description. The players describe what their characters intend to do, and then the DM interprets those intentions into the rules of the game. Sometimes the players describe doing something incredibly mundane that has no chance of failure, and therefore doesn't need dice to decide any type of outcomes. Climbing a ladder, opening a door, there's no real chance of failure on that, so the DM simply continues their narration. Other times there is a chance of failure, and this is when the DM brings out the rules and sometimes calls for a roll of the dice. Depending on the results of the players' rolls, the DM continues their description, and then the cycle repeats again with DM description, player decision, and possibly the dice come out once again. And this flow continues through the course of the entire game. Now it might seem crazy, but it really is just that simple on how the flow of the game goes. So what about all those rules contained in these rule books? What about the dice? What about everything? Don't worry about that. We're going to get to everything. We're going to cover it all in depth, in bite-sized, easy to digest pieces. In our next video, we're going to talk about the engine that helps drive the game, the dice. See you then.